What's up, people? John here from JJSC Tech, and happy Sunday. And I hope you guys are doing well. Hope your family is good. I hope things are good for you, even if they aren't good for you. Just hang in there. Things are going to be better. Things are going to be better. All right, so today we're going to discuss cameras. Cameras. Now, what sparked this conversation off was Red. So Red is owned by Nikon, and they had a price drop this week. Yep, a price drop this week. So now the regular Komodo is cheaper, and the Komodo X is cheaper as well. But does that mean in order to get it up and running, is it still cheap to do, or is it still a bit expensive? We're going to get into that. And plus, we probably might go into like starter cameras. We're going to maybe do things about starter cameras, like if you're now beginning and what type of camera to use. But let you know now, I'm an advocate of using cameras that have interchangeable lenses. I'm not about those webcams. I'm not about Osbot. It's not like they're bad. I ain't gonna lie to you. They kind of bad if you're gonna live stream and etc. They're not all that good. I mean, the colors aren't that great. The dynamic range isn't all that great. Over here on this channel, we deal with nothing but professional camera, professional lighting, and professional sound. If you're beginning, this channel isn't really for you. But if you want to get to that level, then welcome. Come on over. All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to build out the Red Komodo and the Red Komodo X, and we'll see if it's still kind of cheap, even though you're saving $1,000 on the OG Komodo and $3,000 on the Komodo X. We're gonna see if it's cheap. Boom. All right, cool. Yeah, so as you see, price drop. This used to be 6,000, now it's 5,000. And here's the Komodo X. Used to be 10,000, now it's 7,000. I mean, it's pretty good. Even the packages on the Komodo X, they dropped as well to reflect the new prices of the Komodo X, which is a good thing. It's a cool thing. So in actuality, no, $9,000. This is still not ready to go at $9,000 because you do need a good screen. But we're gonna get to that. All right, let's first build out the red Komodo. All right, so the red Komodo. I know that a lot of people say you can use your phone and etc., but not really. I would only use your phone with this camera in an emergency situation. Don't depend on it. Because if you want like accurate colors, if you're racking focus, there's a slight delay on the phone and on the iPad because it's using Wi-Fi. So it's best to get a external monitor that you can use SDI and connect to this camera. So let's add this to the cart. And now let's just go through the basic stuff to get this camera functional. Not the bare minimum, but just like the basic stuff to, you know, get it functional so you can start to shoot or start to stream and what have you. All right. So if you're recording, you will need recording media. I personally go with Angel Bird. I've never had an issue with these. These are great. And it's still expensive. Now, see, even though the camera dropped in price, the accessories are still expensive. Like for 1 terabyte, you gotta still pay $500, and for 512, that's crazy. That's crazy. $550 for 512. So you're gonna need 2 of these. 100%. You're gonna need 2 of these. As you see, Angel Bird right here. Jeez. 2 1 terabyte for 1,000. Hey man, you need it. So we're gonna add that to the cart. So we do need a card reader because if you're using memory cards, you're gonna need to find some way to connect it to the computer. So a card reader. Now it doesn't have to be a Red approved card reader. So am I blind? Card readers? I can't see it right now. So I'm gonna click on a regular card. And in the accessories. Yeah, here you go. I use Angel Bird, but as I said before, you don't have to have a Red approved card reader. They work just fine. So I'll probably go with this. Maybe 2.0. It has 3 stars, so let's go with this. That's the cheapest one right here. No, this one is cheaper. 6 stars. I mean, 6 reviews, 5 stars. Yeah, let's go with that. So let's edit the cart real quick. Let's add. Let me remove this. Boom. All right, let's go back because you need more stuff. That's just the card reader. You're already at $6,000. All right. So since you got the card, you need batteries. Now, you can do this two ways. You can have two of these BP batteries and then connect a V mount with an so you can do a cage and do like 15 millimeter rods and then connect a V mount plate on the 15 millimeter rods and then put a V mount battery on there and then connect it to the camera, and that way you have 3 batteries for one camera. And the reason I go with these BP batteries is because they're hot swappable. So when one dies, you can just take it out and it keeps running. Now, if you go the V-mount route, like just get a V-mount plate and connect it to the camera itself, if that V-mount battery dies, you're going to have to turn off the camera and then swap out the V-mount battery, blah, 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 blah. But with this method, you can hot swap batteries, even the V-mount battery, and have the camera still running. So just for argument's sake, let's just do 2 of these. Let's go the cheapest route. Update. All right, boom. All right, so we got power. Now we need an external monitor. Some people might say you need to outrig a handle. I disagree. You don't need it. It's a luxury. And plus, it's very expensive just to have the record start stop on the handle itself. Let's just do a cage, a simple cage with a handle. We don't need any of those. We do need a charger to charge the batteries. So boom, we get one of those. Mounts and brackets. This is from mid 49. OD expensive. All right, cool. Small rig, basic, beautiful. 105. Is that the cheapest? Boom. We got that. Now we can have a handle, a side handle. Nah, those are way too expensive. Way too expensive. For a handle, bro? Let's go back here. Let's see if Small Rig has any side handles. Well, Condor Blue has a side handle for $100. Nothing cheaper than that, bro. We need something cheaper. Why does this do this? All right, let's refresh. All right. You can get this, which is $31.99, but ergonomics might be, well, this is more for like a handle like this. So you can't really use that. You need a side handle like this, but that's a little too expensive. Does Small HD have a handle? I know Small HD is pretty cheap. No, they don't. Oh, that sucks. All right, so Let's go with Condor Blue. All right, so we got the basics like that. We got the handle. We have, okay, we're not gonna go with the V-mount battery plate because let's say you're streaming with it, you can just plug in the power cable, find some way to get the power to the camera with the tripods and plug it in, and you should be good to go. All right, so let's do a monitor. We don't want a recording monitor, we just need a regular monitor. Yep, on-camera monitor. Now, on-camera monitors are pretty important, especially when it comes to focusing. If you do a really good on-camera monitor, you will get like focus assist. That way you can see like all of the red, like the subject that you're focusing on will light up red and or blue, whatever color you choose, and that way you know that they're in focus. You can focus on specific things like eyes, fingers, and etc. If you're doing wildlife, you can do eyes, you can do on the specific animal, you can whatever. So only some monitors come with that feature, and some monitors do it well. Small HD does it really well, but small HD is really expensive. So we are going to not choose a small HD. I've heard good things about port keys, so let's see what port keys is talking about. And this monitor must have 2 SDIs. Reason being, the Red Komodo only has 1 SDI out. So if you have like a Teradac or if you have some wireless video transmitter system, you're gonna have to connect that as well. So what I usually do is I connect the, what do I do? What do I do to reduce latency? Yeah, I connect the wireless transmitter to the camera and then loop out that signal from the wireless transmitter to the monitor. Yeah. So if you have like 2 ports, SDI ports on the monitor, you can loop out the signal from the monitor to something else. Focus? Yeah. So let's see what port keys is on. Port keys. I don't have a port keys, but I've heard good things about these in the community. So let's see. This one also has red control, if I'm not mistaken. Does it have loop out? As long as it has loop out. I don't like the 3 stars, bro. I like reviews. Me personally, this is just me personally. I purchase things that they might be a little expensive, a little bit more, but they last. I don't like buying something 2 or 3 times. So if you spend $650 3 times, that's over $3,000. No, tripping. That's $2,100. No, 18. Dang, what's up with me in math? It's like 18, right? Yeah, 18 plus, probably 17, 19. 19, 2,000 with tax. Yeah. But if you buy a small HD, you buy one, probably like 1,800, buy it used, and that's gonna last you like a lifetime. Hopefully nothing happens like it drops or it breaks. But even if it drops and breaks, you can always send it into small HD and they can repair it. But I'm checking to see if this has 2 SDIs. 1080p, that's fine. You don't need a 4K on-camera monitor. Video, 2200 nits. That's bright-ish. It's bright enough. I think it's brighter than the small HD. Where are the ports? The ports, inputs, outputs. Okay, good. It has 2. HDMI. Okay, so when you're doing professional videos and stuff like that, HDMI should not be the only port, because things like HDMI, they can just come out, they can break easily. Yeah, it's not as reliable. But SDI, they have the lock-in BNC, and that's way more reliable. If someone pulls it, snags it, it won't automatically come out and you won't automatically lose the signal. So it's best to have a SDI port. And since these are 3G SDI, you don't have to worry too much about blowing the port. But you can burn out the port of the red. So you must follow certain sequence. Like if you're turning it on, you make sure the SDI is disconnected and turn on the red first, turn on the power of the camera or the teradek, not the camera, the monitor or the teradek, then you plug in the SDI to the red. This rule doesn't only go for red, but it goes for all cameras that have a 12G SDI port. So that's Sony Venice, Arri Alexa, all those things. So what you want to do, again, turn on the camera first, then turn on the monitor and turn on the teradek or whichever one you're connecting to the camera first, and then plug in the SDI cable after you turn everything on, because you don't want to destroy your only SDI port, because it's going to be really expensive. And in the reverse, when you are turning off the camera, you plug it out first and then you turn off everything else. Yeah. All right, so this is cool. This pass. View card. I think that's all you need. So you got your camera. No, you need a lens. You need a lens. So this is where the money is going to go up. So you can either do a RF lens or you can do a cinema lens. With a cinema lens, you're going to need a different mount. It depends on the cinema glass that you're going for. If you want something that's like really durable, it can be 3,000 and up. But I would say if you're beginning, if you're doing streaming, if you're doing small little gigs, then the RF glass should be good enough. RF should be good enough for your first glass. But when you start getting like bigger gigs and a bigger team, then definitely a cinema glass. You'll definitely see the benefit. But for right now, let's just do a Canon lens. All right, so you got something like the Canon RF 35mm. I would get a zoom, because if this is the only lens that you have, don't get a prime. 24-70 f2.8. This is a good lens. Oh, this is a good lens. 24-70. Is this the new lens? This is expensive. Jeez. f2.8. 24 to 105 is a better lens because you have a much better range. So, oh yeah, it makes sense. I mean, if you're spending $2,000 or $2,500, I would definitely just go for the 24 to 105. Also, if you can get this used, that's even better. Sheesh. Nope. This isn't used as yet. This is a great camera. I mean, this is a great lens. I have this lens. Awesome lens. Hardly use this lens since I migrated over to cinema glass, but beautiful lens. Heavy lens. There's no image stabilization with this lens. None whatsoever. But you don't really need it because it's such a heavy lens. I think this one has, yep, this one does have IS. All right, so we go there. We'll go with this one. And what's the total? 10,000. Boom, 10,000. Now, you can still nickel and dime and get this number a bit lower, but to have it fully functional and not using your phone, not using the ad hoc function for your iPad and etc., you're gonna be spending around this amount in order to get the OG Komodo up and running. So it's still expensive. Even though it dropped $1,000, it's still expensive. Versus, let's see, something like, if you do the FX6, now, these are two different cameras. Red is a true cinema camera because of the 16-bit RAW and the other things that it uses. FX6 is more of a hybrid cinema slash videography one-man band type of camera. Now you can use this camera as a one-man band because all you really need with this camera is a battery and a lens. That's it. Everything else is you're ready to go. And so this camera is still cheaper, even though the base price is it's more expensive than the base price of the Red Komodo. Is still cheaper out the box and to get functional, to be operational. This is still way cheaper. Now the image, depending on if you like Sony's image or not, that's up to you, or that's more up to your client. Does this, I know this has SDI. I haven't seen many people streaming with this. As you see, you can add 24 to 105 G Master, and it comes out to a little over $7,000. But let's not do that. Wonder. So this is 6,000. Let's add a more expensive G Master lens. But this, it is better to get a onboard monitor, but like an on-camera monitor, but it's that monitor that it comes with is functional. Jeez, Sony. Even though these are expensive for memory cards, it's still cheaper than red cards. It's much less though. It's way less capacity, 160. But again, it doesn't shoot RAW, so you don't need that big of storage. Let's do photo glass. I don't know too much about G Master lenses because I don't use Sony. But 24 to 70 f2.8, kind of like the same prices as Canon. Does it have a 24 to 105? $70 to 200. This is cheaper. Not bad. 70 to 200, 2.8. Sigma, that's why. I mean, this is a good starting lens, but you do want, if this is your only lens, you do want like a wider focal length. Like a 35 or even a 24 to 105. Here it is, f4. I don't want f4. You don't have a 2.8. It's 24 to 105, 2.8. Wow, Sony doesn't have a 24 to 105 f2.8? Nah, you tripping. Time to ban you, sir, on Twitch. No advertising. Ban. It does not. Huh. Another reason I'm Team Canon, but either way, if this, let's say it's $3,000. Let's go back to the Sony. $3,000. It's gonna be like the same price. It's still gonna be like 10 grand. Yeah. So they're both gonna be like the same price depending on the lens that you go for. But this comes with internal NDs. It's much lighter. It has autofocus. Now, the autofocus only works with Sony Sigma, like photo lenses. It only works with photo lenses. It does not work with cinema glass, which has like the better image. So keep that in mind. If you want Sony's wonderful autofocus, I mean, that's the only reason I would really go to a Sony, because that autofocus is second to none. I'm not going to Sony because of the color. Also, another thing about G Master lenses is they're really sharp, really sharp, almost artificial, make you look artificial type of sharp. It's good for certain applications, like if you're doing weddings, run and gun, and streaming a wedding, and you don't want to worry about rack and focus. Man, this thing won't disappoint you whatsoever. There will be probably a little bit of focus hunting, but this thing won't disappoint you whatsoever. The other contender is the new kid on the block, which is the Canon C400. Oh, and another thing is, this is full frame. The red Komodo. This is Super 35. Even the Komodo X is also Super 35. For you to get a full frame red is gonna be like 24,000. It's gonna be like 24,000. So this is still cheaper, even though you put a expensive G Master lens on this right here, and it comes out to 10,000. It's still way cheaper for a full frame camera, a really good full frame camera. Even though I don't like Sony's picture, it's not awful. You know, it's not terrible. It's pretty good. It's a good camera. This is the new kid on the block. Canon C400 6K full frame. I don't know too much about it because it hasn't been released as yet, so I haven't watched any YouTube videos to find out who has it and find out the pros and the cons of this camera. This is kind of like a hybrid between the C70 and the C300. Now, if you know Canon, if you're familiar with the C70 is a pretty good camera. I ain't gonna hold you. It's a pretty good camera, and it has good autofocus, and the thing about it is just the shape. The shape of it is kind of hard to build out, and it has BP batteries. I mean, granted, the Komodo and the FX3, they also use those type of L-mount batteries. So you will have to have some sort of attachment or do a rig with 50mm rods and attach a V-mount. What's the word? Like a V-mount component, because I can't find the word right now, and then attach a V-mount battery or gold mount if you're into that, and you can power these batteries and they can last much longer. Now this uses servos. What's the mount of this? Should be RF. Hold on, let's go to the specs. Oh, it uses type B as well. Interesting. So it uses the same cards, the same memory cards as the Komodo X as well as the V-Raptor. Okay, it uses an RF mount. Full frame, yeah. Does it have... it has a wide range of ISO. Now, a lot of people like to say how Red is pretty terrible in low light, and the Sony and all these other cameras that has these dual ISOs are like amazing and great. But the thing that they don't tell you is that in order to get a clean image on the monitor, it does internal denoising. Now, with the internal denoising, it's a fancy trick, because that would cause like the blacks and the colors to look a little muddy in order to have like a brighter image. It's all like processing, artificial processing. Now with the Red, you're going to see a lot of noise, but it's going to capture a lot of that, a lot more information than these other cameras in low light. Granted that you have pretty good light. Remember, Red shoots raw. This goes for any camera that shoots raw. It's going to capture more information on the sensor, and if you put like a denoiser in post and you compare the two, you're going to see that the Red is going to have a bit more information than the Sony or this one. I don't know if this one shoots raw. It says Cine raw 12-bit. I don't know too much about this, but I do know that Red has a better low light. Red Komodo X has better low light than the FX3. Some people might argue with me, but I'm telling you, it has more color. It maintains, or it captures more color. This is XF 12-bit. Yeah, I gotta wait and see a review because what Canon likes to do, they like to give you raw, but with some sort of caveat. You can only use probably a specific card, or it takes up a ton of storage, or it can only be a certain frame rate. But this says up to 60 frames per second. I have to wait. I have to see what the caveat is with this 12-bit RAW. If there is no caveat, then this is pretty good. Pretty good. 12-bit is pretty good. I'm sorry, 12-bit is actually really good. Slot 1, it has 2 slots. Hopefully you can... No, I doubt it. I doubt it. More than likely, you'll only be able to record RAW on the CF Express Type B. Things like the C200, you get 2 SD card slots and you can record to both of them at the same time. So in case one card fails, you have a backup. I doubt you'll be able to do that, but this, it'll be cool if you can record RAW on the CF Type B and then something like MP4 or something on the SD card at the same time. So if anything happens, at least you have a file. You know, you didn't lose everything. But this has image stabilization. It does have image stabilization. That's dope. Super dope. Can't wait to see how it looks. All right, cool. Yeah, so this is the other contender. All right. So enough of the more expensive professional type of cameras. Let's go to beginner cameras. Now, let's say you're the media director for the church. You're looking for a camera, a beginner camera, or if you have like a podcast, if you're doing some sort of streaming event, what type of camera do you use? Remember, I only advocate cameras with interchangeable lenses because a good lens on a mid camera can make a pretty good image. Now a good camera with a really good lens, that image is gonna be better. Of course you need other things like good lighting and etc., but you need those basics. Let's get rid of these. Let's say, what if your budget is... What if your budget is, let's say, $5,000, and you are trying to get that cinematic look for a stream? I would say the first thing to do is look at Blackmagic. Okay. Professional cameras. Now things like the Pocket 6K, it's a good starter camera. This is coming out. Blackmagic Pixis. Not really sure. I mean, if you're familiar with the Blackmagic 6K, Pocket 6K, this is kind of like the same thing. You know, it just has a different body. One more. All right, cool. Jeez. If your budget is $5,000, I mean, we can make it work. We can make it work. We can make it work. Because this is 3,000. You definitely need an onboard monitor. All right, let's see what we can do. So you need this. Let's look at the lenses first, because those are going to be the most expensive things. The camera and the lens. What's this? What's the mount? EF. Okay, okay. All right. So if it's an EF mount, we are not looking at cinema glass, because that might be out of, there are some cheaper cinema glass, but we do have to get a zoom cinema glass if we are going with cinema glass. Yeah, these are out of budget. Way over. Rokinons. These Dizios, they're getting pretty good reviews. What I do want to test is that Dizio, what is it, 65 to 280? I do want to put that on one of my cameras to see how that looks. All right, forget this. This is way too. Let's go. Let's do 24 to 105 EF. Cool thing about it, since it's an EF glass, you can definitely get it used for way cheaper. F4. I don't want an F4. It's just F4 is pretty difficult because your lighting conditions have to be like really good to pull off an F4. But let's say this camera is going to be in the back, then it's going to need a pretty powerful zoom anyways. So depending on how big your church is, how big your venue is, look at these used prices right here. You have a 24 to 200, 2.8. Let's add that. Is that all your money? $4,944. 5,000. I don't know. You do need a battery. Let's just see how much this costs. Let's do that, because all we need really is a battery and an onboard monitor. What type of batteries this uses? Sony BP batteries. Okay. Let's go for the biggest one because we want it to last pretty long. For right now. Let's actually do the cheapest one. And let's see, onboard monitors, of course, Atomos, port keys. Small HD is out of the question. Out of the question. OC. I have an OC monitor. Oh, let's see. Let's do animals. What else? What else? What else? Dun, 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 dun. Sheesh. I could possibly do the OC. Is that the cheapest? No, Shinobi is the cheapest. 600. No, OC. 500. 500s. Add a SDI cable. Battery. We just need a mount for a handle. No. If no, you won't already have a cage. I'm trying to find ways to save money. Let's see. You won't already have a cage. Cages and rigging systems. Yeah, mid 49 is out of their mind. Condor Blue is coming out with a cage. I do like this cage. Sheesh. All right, there's not too much because it's a brand new camera. So you have to give the company some time to actually make some of these things. Mid 49 is nuts. I mean, this is a full rig. This is a full camera rig, but that amount of money is just crazy for a Blackmagic. You still need a handle. Dang. What's on the other side? Does it at least have some sort of mounting? No mounts on the side? I know this is on one side. One side they got the the screen, but that screen is just to like, it's just for menus. All right. Let's just say this is the bare minimum. Let's just add. Let's just Condor Blue. 325. All right. So to be up and running with the Pixis, you're looking at roughly $6,000, which isn't bad. Which isn't bad for a cinema camera, I must say. Now, remember what I said. This is not for beginners. Now, if you don't know anything about cameras, this is not the camera to start with. The reason I go with cinema cameras is because they have a better dynamic range. The skin tones will look a bit better than mirrorless cameras. Not a bit better. They will look much better than mirrorless cameras because a lot of mirrorless cameras don't have the dynamic range, the same dynamic range as a lot of these cinema cameras. Even though Blackmagic is a beginner cinema camera, it does really well, pretty well, with skin tones and with the darks and the lights and etc. Mind you, you do have to have a pretty good lighting system. Don't ignore the lighting system because the camera has a pretty good dynamic range, because you have like a really good lens. You still have to pay attention to your lighting. This camera will look better than, let's say, the Sony ZVE. Even the ZVE one. It will look better than this camera. Even if you put a very expensive G Master on this camera, the blacks, the highlight roll-offs, the skin tones, and etc. The Blackmagic will look better. I mean, these cameras aren't built for that, really. They're just built for having a really sharp, clean image, but when it comes to like skin tones and dynamic range, that's not these cameras' strength. But I must say, the Sony ZVE, like, if you probably don't like a podcast, it's only you. If you're like trying to do like what I'm doing, just sit here and talk about stuff, then this is a good beginner camera to have. If this is too expensive, because this kind of is expensive for a beginner camera, you can always do like Sony ZVE 10. Is it the 10? Yeah. See that? 698. And then you can always get like a Sigma lens and put it on this, and you'll be pretty good. Now, the issue with a lot of these cameras, they're really small, they're really light, they're really compact, they're 4K, they have Sony's awesome autofocus. A lot of these cameras overheat, so you can't run them for long periods of times. So because I'm saying that this is a pretty good beginner cam, don't get this for a church and then try to run this and rig this out, and then it shuts down at like an hour and a half of service, or if you're doing a venue and etc., and then try to come back and blame me. I'm telling you, these cameras aren't built for those long streaming events. Look at it. You see how small this is? And the battery is going to be like crazy tiny. You will have overheating issues. Now, a proper cinema camera, like a Pixis, which is a beginner cinema camera, you won't have that overheating issue with these cameras. That is not this. With this, a lot of these cinema cameras, they have like built-in fans. Don't know too much about this. I don't know if it has it. I would like to get my hands on it to do a compare and contrast with the Red, because all the Reds have built-in cameras. I mean, all the Reds have built-in fans, so those things can literally run for hours, probably a day. I've never had any issue with it shutting down. The only time a Red shut down on me is because of the battery. The battery died. No overheating, nothing. It never froze up on me, because depending on the venue, This is another thing to consider. Depending on the venue, depending on how much the client is paying, how VIP the event is, or how important it is, you don't want to have those problems. I guarantee you don't want to have those problems. You won't get another call. You definitely won't get another phone call. One of the main reasons a lot of these cameras are pretty expensive is reliability. They can run, they can take a beating, and it'll still be reliable. Not sure about this. Again, this is a brand new camera. It's just an entry camera. I don't know how much of a beating this can take, especially if you're putting it into a church setting with a whole lot of volunteers. Let's be honest, a lot of them aren't going to baby the camera. If you're the director, I'm looking you in your eyes. Those volunteers are not going to baby this camera. They're going to be rough with it, manhandle it, and you don't want something that's like really plastic that can drop, or some of the HDMI components, like the HDMI port or the SDI port is like really loose and start wiggling and etc. You don't want that. You want something that's solid, because when you get the budget passed to get these cameras, the next 3 years or next 2 years, you don't want to be replacing it, because that's going to be a long conversation with whoever you're asking, the Treasury Department or whoever. It's going to be a pretty long conversation. It has the PL mount. It has the lock-in EF, which is good, which is really good. So that means your camera won't wiggle if you have like external focus assistant, etc. Not sure how the autofocus would do. Blackmagic isn't known for great autofocus. So this is another person I gotta ban. Ban you. Your Twitch is coming out the woodwork. Goodbye. Yeah. So yeah, that's about it. So remember, choose the right camera. Obviously, it depends on your budget. Now, if you don't have $6,000 for a camera, if your budget doesn't have $6,000 for a camera, or yeah, then this isn't for you. Yeah, you have to go with something. Let me watch my words. I would say save for something that's good instead of buying something cheap, and then you have a ton of problems, and then still have to turn around and buy something more expensive anyways. Save up for the cheapest good starter camera. That's my advice. Save up for the cheapest good starter camera, because with my experience, I have 10 plus years of experience with streaming and cameras and etc., dealing with venues, churches, and etc. I've went the cheap route, and I've also spent hours and days troubleshooting the cheap route. You can do what you want, but I'm telling you, if you just save up and buy something that's pretty good, you'll save a ton of time and a ton of headache. So yeah, I don't want to drag this on any further. So that's it. So the main thing is, even though Red came down in price, the Komodo and the Komodo X, they came down in price. It's still expensive. It's still pretty expensive, especially to bill it out and to have it functional. It's still pretty expensive, but you are saving $1,000 that can go to something else when it comes to the OG Komodo, and $3,000 if you're buying the Komodo X. Now, if you are doing a streaming function, if you're in a church, or if you're doing weddings, or if you're doing conferences, you're going to need more than one camera. So every $1,000 counts. So if you're doing 3 pixels, that's 18,000 versus 3 reds built out, 3 red Komodos, not even a Komodo X, 3 OG red Komodos, which is 30,000. So yeah, 18 versus 30, that's massive. So yeah, that's about it. So I'm gonna catch you guys in the next one. We'll probably do this again, probably with lighting and with sound. Let's see how much it costs to have like basic sound for recording. When it comes to microphone, recorder, proper cables, time code. Let's see what the basic is. And lighting is it's a whole different animal. Because there are the GVM lights and etc. But what I've learned from personal experience is that you can have a GVM light, you can have an aperture light, you can have a Amaran, and what's that other brand of lights? I forgot. But if you set them all to 5600 Kelvin, all of them won't be the same color. All of them will not be the same color. So that's something you have to pay attention to. The accuracy of the light it can be key, and it can be pretty detrimental. So depending on what project that you're using it on. So yeah, I ain't gonna drag this on too long. Appreciate you guys for joining, and I'm gonna catch you guys on the next one. Peace.